Welcome to our deep dive into fallacious arguments.
The sneaky tricks of logic that sound, well, convincing.
But they aren't.
Not really, no.
We'll be using How to Win Every Argument as our guide today.
Yeah.
And it really is packed with wit and wisdom.
It's fascinating, because fallacies can be both accidental and intentional. Sometimes people, they unintentionally make these errors in reasoning,
Right.
but other times
Yeah.
they're deliberately employed to sway your opinion without solid evidence.
Yeah, that's what makes this so important.
Right.
Once you recognize these fallacies,
Right.
you become a more critical thinker.
Absolutely.
It's like having a superpower
Yeah.
to see through the BS.
Think about it. We're
Yeah.
bombarded with information every day.
We are.
Being able to, evaluate arguments and spot weaknesses,
Uh-huh.
that's crucial for making informed decisions.
Okay, so let's break down some of these fallacious arguments.
Right.
The book starts with the concept of a fallacy. Can you explain that?
A fallacy.
Yeah, what is a fallacy?
Well, a fallacy is basically an error in reasoning
Okay.
that weakens an argument. Even if it sounds convincing on the surface, there's a flaw
Yeah.
in the logic that undermines its validity.
So it's like a house built on a shaky foundation.
Exactly.
It might look good from the outside.
Uh-huh. But it's not structurally sound.
Right, right.
Now, there are different types of fallacies. We'll start with
Excellent.
formal fallacy.
Formal fallacy.
These are errors in the logical structure
Okay.
of an argument itself.
The book gives a great example of
Yeah.
formal fallacy called illicit process.
Mm-hmm.
It tries to draw a conclusion about an entire group based on evidence from only part of that group.
Yeah.
Like saying
Okay.
some Australians are pleasant fellows
Okay.
and some con men are not pleasant fellows.
Right.
So some Australians are not con men.
Right. The conclusion might even be true,
Right.
but the logic doesn't hold up.
Okay.
Just because two groups share some characteristics, it doesn't mean they're mutually exclusive.
It's like saying
Right.
some cats have tails
Uh-huh.
and some dogs don't have tails.
Yeah.
Therefore, some cats are not dogs.
Precisely.
It's a true statement,
Yeah.
but the logic is faulty.
Now, let's move on to informal fallacies.
Okay, informal fallacies.
These are errors in reasoning
Okay.
that arise from the content of the argument rather than its structure.
So the words themselves,
The content.
the content. Okay.
We'll focus on two subcategories,
Okay.
fallacies of relevance
Okay.
and fallacies of presumption.
Fallacies of relevance
Uh-huh.
sound particularly sneaky.
They can be, yeah.
Can you give us an example?
Okay, think about a time when
Yeah.
someone criticized your idea by saying, well, you would say that, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
They are trying to dismiss your argument by focusing on you
Right.
as an individual
Uh-huh.
rather than addressing the argument itself.
Oh.
That's called argumentum ad hominem,
Argumentum ad hominem.
and it's a classic fallacy of relevance.
So they're trying to distract from the real issue
Yes.
by attacking the person making the argument.
It's distraction tactic,
Right.
plain and simple.
How to Win Every Argument is a really funny example of that.
Yeah.
It says, now I come to Professor Robinson's argument.
Uh-huh.
In favor of amalgamating the two colleges.
Okay.
Far be it from me to reopen old wounds by referring to the professor's conviction 3 years ago for drunk driving, but we have to ask ourselves.
Yeah, so
So sneaky.
it is. It is.
That ritual denial
Yeah.
at the beginning.
It's classic.
They pretend to be reluctant to bring it up,
Yes.
but they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
It's like saying, I don't want to be mean, B do T.
Exactly.
And then they proceed to be very mean.
And another fallacy of relevance you might encounter is the red herring.
The red herring.
So imagine you're in a debate about, say, education funding.
Right.
And suddenly someone brings up a completely unrelated topic.
Right.
Crime rates.
Right.
It's a red herring.
Okay.
An irrelevant issue.
Right.
Introduced to divert attention.
How to Win Every Argument has a great scenario that illustrates this.
Oh, yeah.
It says, excuse me, sir,
Yeah.
what are you doing with that diamond necklace hanging out of your pocket?
Uh-huh.
I say, isn't that a purebred German Shepherd dog you have with you?
Like a magician.
Oh, yeah.
Sleight of hand.
While you're focused on the dog,
Uh-huh.
you forget about the diamond necklace.
Politicians
Right.
and lawyers sometimes use red herrings to shift the focus away from a weak point in their argument.
Okay, so we've got these fallacies of relevance.
Hmm.
Now, what about fallacies of presumption?
Fallacies of
Oh,
presumption.
what makes those tricky?
Well, fallacies of presumption make unwarranted assumptions. Right.
Leading to faulty conclusions.
Okay.
Let's say you hear someone argue.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that climate change is a hoax.
Okay.
That's a fallacy called argumentum ad populum.
Argumentum ad populum.
Appealing to popular opinion as if it proves something is true.
The book has a really powerful line that illustrates this.
Yeah.
It says,
Okay.
"Are we to see the streets of this ancient land of ours given over to strange faces?"
So they're playing on fear
Right.
and prejudice.
Instead of
presenting a logical argument,
right.
it's a tactic often used to,
Yeah.
stir up emotions and get people on board
Uh-huh.
without really examining the evidence.
Right.
You have to remember,
Yeah.
just because a lot of people believe something
Right.
doesn't automatically make it true.
So it's like that saying,
Right.
if everyone jumped off a bridge, would you jump too?
Exactly.
Just because something is popular doesn't mean it's right.
Another common fallacy of presumption.
Is wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking.
We all fall prey to this one sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
It's accepting or rejecting a claim
Uh-huh.
based on what we want to be true
Okay.
rather than on the evidence.
Ooh, I do this all the time.
We all do.
Like,
Yeah.
go and work in this awful weather would do no good for anyone.
Okay.
I think I'll take the day off and stay in bed. Is that a fallacy?
It is, yeah.
It is.
Well, we all love a good duvet day. That's not a sound basis for reasoning.
Okay.
It's important to base our decisions on evidence and logic, not just on what we wish were true.
Okay, so we've covered formal fallacies,
Yes.
fallacies of relevance, and now fallacies of presumption.
That's right.
That's a lot to take in.
It is a lot.
But how can we, as listeners,
Yeah.
use this knowledge in everyday life?
Well, first, remember that
Yeah.
these fallacies are everywhere.
Oh.
You'll hear them in
Yeah.
political debates,
Right.
in advertising,
Yeah.
even in casual conversations
Oh.
with friends and family.
So it's like a game.
It can be, yeah.
We can start spotting these fallacies
Yeah.
in real time,
Right.
like a mental scavenger hunt.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the more you practice,
Yeah.
the better you'll get at identifying them.
Right.
This will make you a more discerning listener
Okay.
and a more critical thinker.
This is all starting to make sense.
Good.
So by understanding these fallacies,
Right.
I can become a more informed consumer of information.
Absolutely.
That's pretty empowering.
It is empowering, yeah.
This has been incredibly helpful.
Good.
But I know there's a lot more to learn about fallacies.
There is.
What other sneaky tricks of logic should we watch out for?
Oh, there are plenty more.
Really?
Yeah. It's amazing
Yeah.
how many different types of fallacies there are.
Right. We've only just scratched the surface.
We have.
Yeah.
They can appeal to your emotions,
Uh-huh.
your insecurities, even your desire for simplicity.
It's kind of unsettling, actually.
Zambi.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
how can we ever be sure we're not being tricked by these fallacies?
Well, awareness is the first step.
Right.
Once you know what to look for,
Uh-huh.
you're less likely to fall prey to these logical traps.
Right.
Let's dive into some more examples, and
Okay.
you'll see what I mean.
All right.
Have you ever heard someone say, "If you're so smart, why aren't you rich?"
Ooh. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like they're saying wealth equals intelligence.
Right.
But
yeah.
you could be a brilliant artist
Yeah.
or a dedicated teacher
Uh-huh.
and not be rolling in dough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a fallacy
Right.
called argumentum ad crumenam.
Argumentum ad crumenam.
Assuming that wealth or money
Right.
is a measure of correctness.
Yeah.
It completely ignores the fact that there are many different forms of intelligence and success.
It's a way of dismissing someone's argument
It is.
simply because they're not wealthy.
Right.
Like, oh, you can't possibly understand economics because you're not a millionaire.
Precisely.
Okay.
Now, think about a time
Yeah.
when someone tried to discredit an idea by saying, "Oh, they're just jealous."
Ooh, that's sneaky.
It is sneaky.
So instead of addressing the idea itself,
Right.
they try to make people resent the person who came up with it.
Exactly.
That's got to be a fallacy, right?
It is.
Okay.
It's called argumentum ad invidium.
Argumentum ad invidium.
The appeal to envy or jealousy.
Okay.
It's a way of turning people against an argument
Right.
by tapping into
Negative emotions.
their negative emotions.
It's like they're saying,
yeah.
don't listen to her, she's just bitter because she doesn't have what we have.
Right.
That's not a fair way to evaluate an argument.
Absolutely.
Have you ever noticed how some arguments try to scare you
Yeah.
into agreeing with them?
All the time.
Like those ads that say,
Oh,
buy our insurance or else something terrible will happen.
right. Play on your fears.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to bypass my rational thinking
Right.
by triggering my fear.
How to Win Every Argument has a powerful example of this.
Oh, does it?
It says,
Okay.
those who still oppose nuclear disarmament
Uh-huh.
should study the effects of a thermonuclear blast.
Okay.
It can melt the eyeballs and vaporize human flesh from great distances.
Wow. That's,
Chilling.
yeah, chilling.
That's a classic example of
Yeah.
argumentum ad metum,
Argumentum ad metum.
the appeal to fear.
Okay.
While fear can be a powerful motivator,
Right.
it shouldn't be the sole basis for making a decision.
It's like they're saying, agree with me or else.
Right.
But that's not a real argument.
Yeah.
It's just a threat.
It's about coercing you into compliance
Hmm.
rather than engaging in a rational discussion.
Let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
Think about a time when someone dismissed an idea simply because it was old.
Oh, yeah.
Like-
It happens all the time.
That's an outdated way of thinking.
Right. Just because something's old
Right.
doesn't mean it's wrong.
There's a lot of wisdom in traditional practice.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Dismissing something solely based on its age
Uh-huh.
is a fallacy
Right.
called argumentum ad novitum.
Argumentum ad novitum.
It's the idea that newer is always better,
Right.
which isn't necessarily true.
So it's like saying,
Yeah.
that's so last year.
Exactly.
But there are timeless truths
Right.
and valuable ideas
Absolutely.
that have stood the test of time.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's important to evaluate ideas based on their merit,
Uh-huh.
not simply on their age or novelty.
Okay.
New doesn't always mean better,
Right.
and old doesn't always mean outdated.
Let's talk about the opposite problem.
Okay.
Dismissing an idea simply because it's new.
Okay.
So if argumentum ad novitum says newer is always better,
Uh-huh.
this one must say that older is always better.
You got it. That's argumentum ad antiquatum.
Argumentum ad antiquatum.
The fallacy of appealing to tradition
Okay.
or history
Right.
to support an argument.
It's like saying,
Yeah.
we've always done it this way, so it must be the right way.
Exactly.
But of course, just
They-
because something has been done for a long time
Right.
doesn't automatically make it right.
Absolutely.
Traditions should be questioned and evaluated,
They should
just like any other idea.
think about societal progress.
Like what?
Like,
Yeah.
women's suffrage,
Okay.
the civil rights movement,
Mhm.
LGBTQ plus rights.
Right.
All of these challenged traditional norms.
Yep.
And led to positive change.
So we shouldn't blindly follow tradition
No.
just because that's how it's always been done.
Exactly.
You need to think critically
We do.
about whether those traditions are still serving us well.
Now,
Okay.
let's talk about a fallacy that's all about oversimplification. Imagine you're having a complex discussion and someone tries to boil it down to just two options.
Right.
You're either with us or against us.
Ooh, I've heard that one before.
It's a classic.
It feels very manipulative.
It is.
Like they're trying to box you into a corner.
That's the fallacy of bifurcation,
Bifurcation.
presenting only two options
Right.
when there are actually many more possibilities.
Right. Life is rarely black and white.
Exactly.
There are usually shades of gray
Uh-huh.
and a whole spectrum of choices.
It's a way of oversimplifying a complex issue and forcing people to choose between two extremes.
Right.
When the reality might lie somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Or outside of those options altogether.
Okay, I'm starting to see
Yeah,
how these fallacies can really warp our understanding of things.
they can.
It's making me wonder if we should be questioning everything we hear.
Well, a healthy dose of skepticism is always a good thing.
That makes sense.
It's about engaging your critical thinking skills and not taking things at face value.
So what other fallacies should we be on the lookout for?
All right, here's one
Yeah.
that plays on our tendency to trust people
Okay.
in positions of authority.
Okay.
Have you ever heard someone say,
Yeah.
well, this famous scientist said it, so it must be true?
Oh, all the time.
Right?
It's like they're saying,
Yeah.
because this person is an expert, you can't question their opinion.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's argumentum ad verecundium.
Argumentum ad verecundium.
The fallacy of appealing to authority
Okay.
or expertise
Huh.
to support an argument.
Okay.
While experts can certainly offer valuable insights, it's important to remember
Yeah.
that even experts can be wrong,
Of course.
especially if they're speaking outside of their area of expertise.
So just because someone is a renowned astrophysicist
Right.
doesn't mean they're automatically an expert on, say,
Yeah.
economics or politics.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's about evaluating the argument itself, not just blindly accepting it because it comes from a respected source.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of another fallacy.
Okay.
Appealing to the sheer number of people
Right.
who believe something.
Yeah.
Like, millions of people use this product, so it must be good.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's argumentum ad numerem.
Argumentum ad numerem.
The fallacy of appealing to popularity or numbers
Right.
to support an argument.
But just because something is popular
Right.
doesn't automatically make it good or true.
Right. Doesn't mean it's true.
Think about fashion trends.
Yeah.
Just because everyone is wearing low-rise jeans doesn't mean they're a good idea.
Popularity doesn't equal truth or quality.
Right.
It's important to evaluate things based on their merits,
Mhm.
not on how many people happen to like them.
This is all so fascinating.
It is.
It is also a bit overwhelming.
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to keep practicing. Your critical thinking skills.
Right.
The more you familiarize yourself
Uh-huh.
with these fallacies,
Yeah.
the easier it will be
Right.
to spot them in the wild.
Okay. So we've learned about fallacies that appeal to
Yeah.
wealth, envy, fear,
Yes.
novelty, tradition,
Right.
oversimplification,
Yeah,
and even popularity.
exactly.
What other mental traps?
Oh, we've got plenty more.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It feels like we've uncovered this whole toolbox
It is.
of
Yeah.
mental tricks that people use in arguments.
Right.
But I have a feeling we've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, we have.
There are even more fallacies out there.
Yeah. Some are incredibly subtle.
Oh, wow.
Almost like optical illusions of logic. For instance, have you ever noticed
Yeah.
how some arguments go round and round,
Yeah.
never actually proving anything?
Oh, like when people just say,
Yeah.
this is true because it's true?
Exactly.
It's just stating the same thing.
It is. Yeah.
Over and over again.
It's called circulus and probando,
a circulus and probando.
or circular reasoning.
Okay.
It's like a dog chasing its own tail.
Right.
The conclusion is used as evidence for the premise, and vice versa.
How to win every argument gives a great example.
Yeah.
It says, I have the diamond, so I shall be the leader.
Yeah.
Why should you get to keep the diamond?
Uh-huh.
Because I'm the leader, stupid.
It's like saying, I'm right because I said so.
Right. There's no real justification.
Nope.
Just a repetition of the same claim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a fallacy that plays on the slipperiness of language.
Oh, okay.
Think about words with multiple meaning,
Right.
like found or right.
Ooh, so you could twist the meaning of a word
You
to
do.
make your argument sound stronger.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the fallacy of equivocation.
The fallacy of equivocation.
It's using a word with multiple meanings in a way that creates confusion or deception.
Okay.
The book gives this humorous example.
Oh.
It says, elephants are not found in Britain.
Oh,
So if you have one, don't lose it.
right.
Or you'll never find it again.
It sounds like a joke.
It does, yeah.
But I can see how that kind of wordplay
Yeah.
could be used to mislead people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's important to pay close attention
Okay.
to how words are being used in an argument
Right.
and make sure they're not being shifted around
Right.
to create a false impression.
That reminds me of another potential pitfall.
Okay.
What about when people assume
Yeah.
that what's true for one part
Uh-huh.
is automatically true for the whole?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's the fallacy of composition.
The fallacy of composition.
It's like saying
Yeah.
each brick in this wall is small,
Uh-huh.
so the wall must be small too.
Right. It ignores the fact that the whole can be greater
Exactly.
than the sum of its parts.
How to win every argument
Yeah.
has a great example related to economics.
Oh, okay.
It says
Yeah.
farmers benefit from price supports on beef,
Right.
shoemakers gain from price supports on shoes, and so on.
Okay.
Obviously, the whole economy would benefit
Mhm.
if all products were subsidized.
But wouldn't that lead to
You would.
all sorts of unintended consequences?
Exactly.
Yeah.
While individual industries might benefit,
Right.
the overall impact on the economy could be negative.
Right.
This fallacy oversimplifies complex systems
Mm.
and ignores the potential for unintended consequences.
So it's like assuming that if you add enough good ingredients to a cake,
Right.
it's guaranteed to be delicious.
Right.
But,
But baking is more complex than that.
of course.
You need the right proportions,
Yeah.
the right temperature, and
Yeah.
the right technique.
That's a perfect analogy.
Now, let's talk about a fallacy
Mm.
that's often used to shut down critical thinking.
Okay.
It's the idea that if something hasn't been proven false, then it must be true.
Ooh, I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
It's like saying,
It is.
no one has proven that unicorns don't exist, so they must be real.
Exactly.
Right.
That's argumentum ad ignorantium,
Argumentum ad ignorant.
or the appeal to ignorance.
Right.
It shifts the burden of proof
Okay.
onto the other person
Right.
instead of providing evidence to support the claim.
So just because we don't have evidence to disprove something
Right.
doesn't automatically make it true.
It doesn't. No.
It just means we don't know.
Exactly.
Luckily. Either way.
It's important to remember
Okay.
that the absence of evidence
Uh-huh.
is not the same as evidence of absence.
Now here's another fallacy
Okay.
that can lead to some pretty wild conclusions.
It can, yeah.
It's the idea that
Yeah.
one small event will inevitably lead to
Yeah.
a chain of increasingly negative consequences.
Like a domino effect.
Oh, like a domino effect.
Yeah.
If we allow this one thing,
Uh-huh.
then all these other terrible things will happen.
That's it.
Okay.
That's the fallacy of the slippery slope.
The fallacy of the slippery slope.
It's often used to instill fear and resist change by exaggerating the potential consequences.
Right.
How to win every argument. As a funny example,
How's it?
it says,
Okay.
if we ban smoking in pubs,
Uh-huh.
next they'll be banning it in our own homes,
Right.
and then they'll be coming after our chocolate and our whiskey.
It's like they're saying
Right.
one small step will send us tumbling down
Yeah.
this mountain of disaster.
Exactly.
But in reality, things rarely play out so dramatically.
They don't.
Right.
The slippery slope fallacy
Yeah.
ignores the possibility,
Yeah.
reasonable limits, and safeguards.
Right.
Just because we take one step
Yeah.
doesn't mean we're destined to slide all the way down.
It's like saying, if you give a mouse a cookie,
Right.
he'll want a glass of milk, and then he'll want to drive your car.
Exactly.
It's a silly exaggeration
It is.
of what's likely to happen.
It's important to
Yeah.
critically evaluate each step
right.
in the supposed chain of events
Wow.
and consider whether there's actual evidence
Okay.
to support those claims.
This has been an incredible journey
It has.
into the world of fallacious arguments.
It's a fascinating world.
I feel like I've learned so much
Good. Yeah.
about how to spot these sneaky tricks of logic.
It's been a pleasure
Yeah.
sharing these insights with you.
Well, thank you.
Remember, critical thinking
Yes,
is a lifelong pursuit.
it is.
The more you practice,
Yeah.
the more confident you'll become
Right.
in your ability to navigate the world of ideas.
So to all our listeners out there,
Yes.
remember, every argument deserves a healthy dose of skepticism.
It does.
Don't be afraid to question assumptions.
Absolutely.
Look for evidence.
Yes.
And challenge those slippery slopes.
Keep those critical thinking skills sharp.
This has been an incredible deep dive
It has been.
into the world of fallacious arguments.
Lots of great information.
But here's a final thought for you to ponder.
Okay.
If every argument can be twisted by a fallacy,
Hmm.
how can we ever be truly sure of anything?